Hi folks, John Dunn here, RPG freelancer, publisher behind Melior Via. I'm up here at Immortals Inc. with Mikey tonight.
What is up, John? And hint, hint, I think we might be going back to space.
We are going back to space, and this time we're going to talk about Modiphius's Star Trek Adventures RPG. Now, I'm not a huge Trek guy. How about you, Mikey?
Not at all, but I'm here to learn.
Excellent. Let's give you a chance to talk a little Star Trek then. So, there have been a whole lot of different Trek RPGs over the years. This is the latest and greatest, and it's published by Modiphius. It came out not all that long ago, but I do know a couple of the freelancers that have done some work on it, and they're great people. They're real talented. This uses Modiphius's 2D20 system. I did a little work on that when it first came out to help set that up with Jay Little.
Represent.
It has changed a lot since then. They've done a whole lot of additional things with it, with their Conan line and a bunch of other game lines as well. It's a pretty solid game system that's well developed, so they're not just, creating a whole new system and not really knowing what to do with it. It's a well-built, well-established system that they're adapting to use with Star Trek at this point. For Trek, again, I said I'm not a huge Star Trek guy, but I've watched a fair bit. And so I can tell you that this book will give you a lot of background information, even if you are not a hardcore Star Trek fan. If you're interested in it, this is going to give you what you need to get going. If you are already well-versed in Star Trek, this is going to be a good resource for you to have on hand, but you might already have even better ones, in which case the world information that's here is really just going to kind of be a reference for you.
You just answered my question, too. I was going to ask you, me being me, I don't know anything about this. So if I were to jump into this, it'd be fine for me, right?
It would be A-okay, yeah. If you're not a huge Star Trek guy, but you're interested in exploring it, this would be a great place to get started because it does give you a real solid window into the world, giving you a lot of the backstory that you might not pick up just watching an episode here or there.
Nice.
It's set in 2371. That didn't mean a whole lot to me right away, so I had to go and look into it. That is the very start of the Star Trek Voyager era from that TV show. So you've got Star Trek Voyager, you've got Deep Space Nine, you've got Star Trek Next Generation. All of those ships were active in that time frame. So it gives you a real well-developed era for your characters to play around in. And then it does give you information if you want to play in one of the other eras, like the original series era with Kirk, or if you want to play in the era from the Enterprise TV show. Those are explicitly called out in here so that you've got the materials you need to run campaigns in those different eras. The layout of the book is done to complement that 2371 era. If you flip through here, all the pages are designed to look like the computer systems and artwork from that era with the orange and black and purple layout. Really evocative. It's well done. I
like that a lot.
Yeah. All the artwork in here is original color artwork that artists did. So while there are a few illustrations of iconic characters, there's a lot more illustrations of characters that could just be player characters or NPCs in your campaign rather than being one of the people you're seeing on TV all the time. And if you look at this artwork behind me, it represents the same kind of thing. Those are the characters that might be the PCs out on one of their adventures.
I remember I mentioned this to you one time. It was in relation to that one Star Wars game. Wasn't it like The Force Awakens or something like that, where you get to play as like a totally different character?
I think we talked about something along those lines. And that's the point of the Star Trek Adventures game. You're not necessarily playing the iconic characters from the TV shows. You could if you wanted, but the intent is that you're designing a new character so that your group has their own starship that's going off and creating their own stories rather than just recreating the ones that we've already seen on TV or in theaters. Going into the game system a little bit, I did say this is a pretty well-established system. Their 2D20 system. You're going to roll multiple D20s, usually at least 2 and sometimes quite a few more than that. And you're trying to roll underneath your character's attribute and skill. Lower is better. It's pretty easy in that regard. In terms of the book's content itself, first 50 pages, like I said, are diving into that world's history, so you do get a real solid basis for learning about the Star Trek galaxy. And then you get 20 pages devoted to Starfleet. So from this book, It's presumed that your characters are going to be members of Starfleet, and so they need to have some kind of background information about that.
Is that like the gang, the official gang in space, like Starfleet?
So the iconic organization that the Federation of Planets sponsors is Starfleet. So it's basically the defense force and the exploration force and the security force for the Federation of Planets. And the Federation is generally the good guys in Star Trek, as opposed to like the Borg or the Kardashians or the Klingons or the Romulans. Though really in the era that this is set, Klingons are part of the Federation.
Do the Kardashians even exist around that time anymore? I think they're just a piece of history at that point.
Different Kardashians.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's just move past that, right?
The real information system about how to play the game and the core mechanics of the rules are about 20 pages long right after that. And then you get into character creation. It assumes that your character is going to be the bridge crew. So these are the iconic characters that are usually the face in most of the different Star Trek series. Your captain, your chief engineer, your chief science officer, your chief security officer, all those guys that are sitting on the main deck controlling the starship and commanding different groups of specialists within the ship. Those are going to be your main characters. So that's who you're going to be making. When you're creating your character, you're going to get to choose from one of the different species. This book offers Andorians, Bajorans, Betazoids, Denobulans, humans, Tellarites, Trills, and Vulcans. And it does, remember I mentioned how it works in different eras? It tells you which of those eras, each of those different species were members of Starfleet, so really could fit in as part of the Federation. Once you've chosen your species, then you create your character by kind of exploring their life path. So their trip through Starfleet Academy, their career, what kind of adventures they had even before they became a member of the bridge crew. And then after that, once you've got your main character established, then we get into troop play that I've talked about a couple of other times. A lot of times when you're watching a Trek show, you'll see the party split up and do different things. So maybe some of the main characters are aboard the ship and others might be down on a planet taking care of things. Well, in order to accommodate that, they talk about creating supporting characters. That's a little less complicated than the way you'd create your bridge crew. And those supporting characters are going to be shared between players. So depending upon where your main character is, you might take a different supporting character to complement a mission. And the neat thing about that is that these supporting characters then become recurring faces and help to add some depth to that starship that your bridge crew is commanding. And so you have just, more of a tone and more of an interaction. One of the other things I thought was neat, if you wanted to do something like the Trek Lower Decks show where you're not playing the bridge crew, they do give you a few call outs and different suggestions on ways you might do that. You want to get the perspective of being a member of the ship's crew, but not necessarily being in command of it. In addition to that, you do get tech and equipment, you get starships, planets, aliens, and there's a sample adventure. So really, this is a solid book to get you started on your adventures in the Star Trek galaxy. You got nice maps in the front and the back showing different quadrants. The book is approaching 400 pages. I think it's right here about 365, 370, and it is $57.95. We got copies up here at Immortals Inc. on the shelf, Immortals Inc. online.
Immortalsinc.com.
Thanks for watching, and good gaming.
Good gaming. Peace out, guys.